I'm very, very excited to get to introduce the next speaker, who will kick off really an amazing day of presentations. I hope you guys have a little bit of energy to get through the day, because we have a lot of great stuff. Starting with Ms. Connie Nielsen, who many of you may know as an actress, she can talk about all the roles and movies she's been in, but I truly only know her as one of the most passionate people and dedicated people for her Human Needs Project that I have ever met. You know, it's been a very short relationship for us, maybe a month or so, but with the emails and phone calls, there's no question that this woman is going to succeed and make a huge difference to the people of Kibera in Nairobi, which is the biggest and most challenged slum in the world. And with that, Connie, please share your passion with the rest of us.
So I'm still not going to talk about my work in film, because I literally am not really interested in that right now. I'm really interested in this. This here is something that has come into being as a result of film. I went last year in April and shot a film called Lost in Africa, which I decided to do because I want to do films that talk about real issues and real challenges that we all face as human beings. That's part of why I always wanted to be an actor, is because I get the chance of living inside characters and exploring what it means to be a human being. And that's what I'm interested in. In the course of shooting Lost in Africa, I spent a lot of time with, not just in the slum of Kibera, but with people from Kibera who were actors in our film, crew members, security people. They were basically a big part of our film, not to mention a whole lot of kids that I met as part of working on this film. And I would have to say that, having never actually seen a slum from the inside, but mostly just driven by one and been appalled as I was going through the various cities, big cities on the planet. It was a different experience seeing that kids that, before they started working on the film, they actually had like these tiny little problems. They had some kind of infestation in their bodies, which had turned their skin gray. And it turned out that like a 2-day course of antibiotics basically returned this kid that everyone actually thought was dying from AIDS into completely beautiful black kid. And it shocked me that no one had diagnosed this kid with this silly condition and rendered his life better. And instead he'd gone for 10 years and lived with this microbe in his gut for all this time. One of the things that I discovered when I walked around there is obvious to any one of you, which is that water is a huge problem for a lot of people, and it just didn't occur to me. I mean, it's really fair to say it didn't occur to me. I'm so used to just turning on the tap and there's the water. I've always been sort of like trying to live ethically, so I've been interested in us not misusing water. But it never occurred to me that you could live in a city and not have access to water. And especially a city like Nairobi, because like Nairobi is really first world standards in many, many ways. And you kind of just don't expect that until people are like, yeah, no, we can't get any water. And when you start looking at all of the ways in which that radiates out into people's lives, that it's not just, quenching your thirst, but it's actually a question of whether you're going to die from diarrhea, whether your children are going to die from diarrhea, whether you're able to even have a job because, you may be too debilitated to have a job. I mean, it just never occurred to me until I looked into Kibera. And it seemed to me right off the bat, well, the fastest thing to do is just to dig a hole, put in a pump, and say bye-bye, it's like done. And so I said, decide $50,000, and they said, okay, I'll build the pump. I'll build the well. I talked to a friend of mine who's a really great constructor, and I said, let's build this pump. And he's like, okay, cool. His name's David Warner. He's the co-founder of Human Needs Project. And then we just started looking into how we were going to go about doing that. And we realized that most pumps within a year don't work anymore. I was like, there's no way I'm putting $50,000 into Kibera and then in a year I'll have no return on that money. That's just bad investment right there. So I said, okay, so let's talk about what is the problem? Like, why is that pump not working in a year's time? It turned out that parts of the pumps were not even produced in the space where it was installed. The people who were now managing the pump had no idea how to repair it or maintain it. Or they knew how to do it, and now they were charging like incredible sums that people couldn't afford to pay anymore. And they, instead of being real businessmen thinking, we've got a little price problem here, we need to lower it to get more clients here. No, they didn't care about their consumers. They just kept on doing the wrong thing and ran their own business into the ground. Again, they had no good information about how to even run a business. So never mind the fact that they were usurpers, I'm just looking at it from a business point of view and thinking, these guys don't even know how to usurp. So basically, we just spent a lot of time just looking into all of these problems, and this is what we came up with. And needless to say, I'm so way in over my head, so you guys are just going to have to give me a lot of help, okay? Human Needs Project. It's David Warner's idea. We come from the idea of Maslow's pyramid of needs. That simple. You cover the basic human needs, and it allows people to move beyond those basic concerns and into some of the things that make us all really proud of being human beings. I'd like to just start telling you, sort of like in a really ordered fashion, who we are, why we exist, what we're doing, and at the end, please, how can you help me? Who are we? Well, you guys heard about me and David Warner, who builds a whole lot of progressive houses in the entire San Francisco, Palo Alto, all the way up there, Silicon Valley stuff. But we are a collaborative group, no hierarchy here, and we have a very diverse range of expertise. I would start by pointing out Daniel Kamen, who is a professor at UC Berkeley, nuclear technology, but he is also the World Bank specialist, renewable energy. He is our genius. Without him, the brain power among us just would be too small to do what we're doing. He's incredible. Kenneth Cow is an architect. He also works with Richard Branson in trying to set up the Necker Island self-sustainable eco resort. And is very, very interested in urban issues. And all of these people, by the way, are all, they're all volunteers. Everyone in Human Needs Project is a volunteer. Norman Hanchey, together with John Todd, created our wastewater management system, which I'll be telling you guys about. John Todd is a pioneer in ecological design for wastewater management. And together with the engineering of Norman, we've created a hybrid, which is basically a prototype that is being tested right now at UC Davis. Patricia Turner is in education, and so is John O'Connor in both, this is in America and this is in Kenya. And we just have a very diverse range of people. We have a lot of people also in Kibera, as well as in Nairobi, who have taught us everything we now know about the people we're working with. These are the trainees. As I said, one of the biggest problems we discovered is that basically these wells and pumps are being put into the hands of people who then don't have the technology, the knowledge about the technology. So what we're doing is we basically found 25 amazing people. They are all from Kibera. Some of these people have, through some miracle, found a way to get themselves MBAs, get themselves incredible educations by sheer, I don't know how they did that, but they did. And I'm now telling them, I know you've got all of this wonderful education, but if you are going to be able to run this center, you need to know more. So I'm having every one of them learn electrical work, plumbing, chemistry, all of this very hands-on stuff, while everyone else that, for example, might be really good at the hands-on stuff, we're teaching them management, organization, communication, computer skills. These guys, we're setting up a collaboration with University of Nairobi, the whole compact that they have, with also Polytechnic, where we'll be doing a lot of this training. This is viewed, by the way, as a continuing program. We are aware that these kids will be very valuable to the community within a year of having run our center, and we'll probably lose them to people who can really pay them, and that's okay with us. We would like to continue creating waves of people like that to come out into Africa. What's really incredible about the whole African setup is also that people go back to their villages all the time. So every time you seed something, you bring it not just into the city, you also bring it out to the rural areas where they go back to. So this knowledge is seedable. It's something you can bring further on. Why are we doing it? I don't even have to tell you this part. You guys know it already. 1 billion people worldwide live in slums. We are interested in slums because that's what shocked me. Urban areas, hundreds of thousands of people connected collectively in misery. They live on sometimes less, sometimes a little more than $1 a day. And as you all know, it's $1 a day is actually misleading because it's not $1 a day. Today it's 10 cents. Tomorrow, none. And on Friday maybe I'll get $6. So what's also weird about living on $1 a day is because you don't get it all the time, there is no expectation that you can count on. You can't plan on this. That's what's so hard, because you go from emergency to emergency to emergency. So these people are insanely talented. They've actually studied how poor people manage to survive on less than $1 a day when they don't even get that dollar every day. They do it by borrowing and repaying over and over and over again, up to 5 times their annual income every year. So if you live on $365 a year, in many places it has taken more than $1,500 that they've had to have as a what do you call it? So just like they've had to raise $1,500 to live on $365. That's remarkable. Think about that ability right there. If they had access to our capacities for creating liquidity here, they would have way different lives. It's not the people. It's the access, it's opportunity, it's what they have as ability, like what are the tools they have available to them. I think a lot of them are way more able than we are, and because that's what it takes to survive in those conditions. This is what it looks like where we work. There is no infrastructure in Kibera. The little that there is sometimes provided by municipal services, which are simply not reliable. Many, many times I've literally stood where the UN have their services, and they have problems even with their flow of water because so many of the lines are pirated. And you just see these hundreds and hundreds of pirated lines of water that work for electricity. This system breaks down constantly also because of this pirated part of it. And that has specific dire effects. Lack of infrastructure is deadly. 3.5 million people die worldwide every year. And it's something we don't think about because we live in systems that are like extraordinary. I marvel at it. Now that I know what it is, I literally am just in like this admiration of what our societies have created over 200 years. Remember, we've only had this stuff for really 200 years. Not talking about the Romans, of course, which, you know. But look at this. I mean, you can just see these incredible systems, but we take them for granted, and we shouldn't. I would like you guys to think about what 3.5 million people are. Because right now you have 1 million people living in Montana. But actually every year, everyone living in Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, and North Dakota die. They all die. And it's completely preventable. In Africa, 72% of the population live in slums. Now, if you guys recall, in Europe, as the feudalist societies were dissolving, people started urbanizing as well. There was this weird thing where people lost the access to their own land and couldn't actually farm. Well, those are the people who now go and live in slums. And 60% of sub-Saharan Africa has no access to sanitation. It's remarkable. And you know, it's really not a problem if you live in a little village. You know, it's really not such a big deal. You don't have infection rates at that level. But when you put hundreds of thousands of people into tiny, crammed areas where they're squatting upon this land. And remember, slums are the result of land right issues. They're literally just disputed land rights, and no one has political power or will, maybe, to solve these land right issues. So, what you get out of that is also that people don't invest in the infrastructure. Most African countries are investing only 2.5% of their GDP in infrastructure, where they should be investing at least 5%. Think about that. If we invest in infrastructure, we invest in growth. Southeast Asia, 80s, we had many more, hundreds of millions of people who were living in absolute poverty in the 80s. Now, that number is reflected only in Africa. What does that mean? What did they do? They invested in infrastructure. They kept on growing because of this investment in infrastructure at more than 6% a year. That's what happened. There is absolutely no investment in infrastructure in the slums. It is so hard to do. If our friends from the UN also working in Kibera were here, they could have some really interesting stories to tell you about what they go through in order to try to make some of those investments. It's really complex. It's political, it's tribal, it's governmental. There's a lot of different issues that we deal with, and we're still learning, mind you. We're still trying to navigate this stuff. I've never used my imagination as much, despite the fact that that's my job. I have never used it as much as I have this year. This has like been the most imaginative work I've ever done, and it is so interesting and mind-boggling to me, and it's so exciting. Just like John says, I am absolutely passionate and totally in awe of this possibility. In Kibera itself, you absolutely have some parts where you can access the municipal services, as I said, but those are all breaking down. So it's really hard to find clean drinking water, sanitation, and information. This is what you guys also do here, information, education about issues. And how that education comes about is also part of what we want to learn. This is so heartbreaking. I walk through this slum when I'm there every day, and you have never seen more beautiful children. I mean, they're just amazing. And though they do call me Mzungu, which means white person, I hope it only means that. And I'm really annoyed at it because I really just want them to look at me as if I was their sister. But I can understand. It's kind of, you know, but these beautiful kids, they have this to look forward to. That breaks my heart, right there. You see this amazing, amazing people, and they're caught in a net. This net is difficult to solve, and a lot of people can see only the problems, these huge, unsolvable problems of the slum. But what we're seeing is a huge, untapped potential. This is born through every person I work with there. They astound me daily. So I know what I'm talking about there. I know these people, and there is this incredible potential, a desire to learn, a desire to be a part of this that you have no idea, despite the fact that they have been let down their entire lives. So how do we plan to do this? Well, what we've noticed in all of our research is that people come in. I've heard one account saying that there's 700 CPOs and NGOs working in Kibera alone. And as a matter of fact, last night, some people said at the dinner table that there have been informal calculations that have said that if we had just put that money that had been invested into Kibera, we could have built every one of them a really nice house. You know, that's scary. That means that there's a lot of waste. Systems are producing a lot of waste. We think that this is why. You guys might tell me that we're completely insane, but we're looking at this. These are some of the problems. They're all interconnected. All of this stuff is interconnected. The problems have a really smart way of integrating themselves. So what people have done is they have made a water project, a sanitation project, an energy project, etc., etc., etc. And then what happens is that they peter out, and then they leave. And they're still having the same problems. So we want to do something else. We want to take those same integrated problems and create integrated solutions. We want to first raise the standards of health. Anybody who knows the Maslow pyramid, no, that's the first one. Just give them clean water, teach them how to make clean food, and provide them with the energy to do so. Then we want to raise productivity, create growth by liberating people. You all know that, you know, it takes this and this much creation of surplus, food surplus, for us to have arts. I mean, that's what happened. It wasn't until we found a way to create a food surplus in the world that any of the arts even came into being. Because if not, everyone else is only working on creating food. We would not have had any of the things we live with today had we not created a surplus. This is what we need to do here. We need to liberate people from having to just go and find water and food. We need to liberate them so that they can have better chances at creating real growth for themselves. Because for us, the main goal is to create self-sustainability. A lot of the people who live in Kibera have been NGO'd to death, as we call it. We have literally given them so many programs, so many products, so much food, so many different things that they don't even know how to go and do that for themselves. We keep on serving it. It's just like a housewife from the 50s where, you know, she had no idea how to pay the electrical bill or what it took to do anything, and then her husband died and she was screwed. You know, it's like that. To be living in Kibera, it's like not being given the tools to do it for themselves. We need to put all of these services into one place because we also believe that by aggregating them, we will create a result that might be bigger than the sum of its parts. By integrating them, we believe we create a chemical experiment, a catalytic effect that must release energy. This is basically infrastructure in a box, we like to call it. Obviously, it doesn't fly in from the sky. We don't have that capacity yet. But we do have every single component available locally, because these shipping containers are jettisoned around the world because it's more expensive for these people to just bring new ones in than it is to send back and reuse them. So we think, why not reuse them ourselves? They literally have many, many thousands of these in just about every part of the developing world. So what we like to basically think is that we're not only using those containers for creating offices and storage facilities and making the restrooms and all of these different things that are part of that I'll get into later, but they're also really great for security. They basically hold within them all of our sort of vital technology. We have the solar array, potable water storage, stores, offices, etc., toilets, washrooms in the courtyard, and then we have waste recycling underneath. This could also exist inside a circle. Everything that comes in gets reused and it gets recycled, and as such we also reduce the amount of materials used for creating this. It is completely self-sustainable. We bring in our own energy, we bring up the local water from the ground, but we also have adaptable technologies for rain collection, for desalinization. We have a lot of different abilities, and our wastewater management system can also clean really, really bad source water. So we can actually create this particular system just about anywhere. This is what it's going to look like. We're going to have the solar array. We're going to have the water-based services here. And as you can see, you have sort of like the central here is the water-based services. But then you have what I'm going to go into now, which is the integrated solution. The idea of putting this here in proximity is nothing new. People do it all the time. Huge corporations do this all the time. They create synergy by making these people function by being in their own vicinity, by being close. Over here we have the green marketplace for the home upgrade, which comes along with a financing plan as well, where we will use micro entrepreneurs living and working in Kibera, give them the technology that we have from our collaborators at UC Berkeley and UC Davis, and make it available for them, the specs available, and then have them produce the very products that they can then also price at bottom of the pyramid prices. That's very important to us, is to bring in technology at prices that people there can afford. And we're going to be spending a lot of effort in that department in the future once this pilot project is underway already. We're really proud of this one. You remember I showed you guys Norman Hanchy and John Todd. John Todd being one of the pioneers to use natural processes to clean wastewater and to do it on citywide applications. Basically creating big water sort of canals where like these microbes working in tandem with plants that are planted there clean the water through these natural processes. Now in the beginning we asked John Todd, can you do this on our small footprint? We need everything to be enclosed within this very footprint of the center. And he said, I'll try, but it was really hard to get that big of a natural system into such a small footprint. So we then asked Norman if he could come up with a way to create a hybrid. Classical, wastewater management, which you can see right here with the septic tank and the anaerobic filters. Very simple, like a lot of houses have these just about everywhere. But then we take it from there and we put it through plastic media. Plastic media is a really fancy word for saying used water bottles that have been just basic, it's been turned, twisted, sliced. You can have anybody in Kibera will sit and do this in an afternoon and put them into these huge planters. Put water, the wastewater on top of it, and all of these microbes will naturally do the work. The plants on top will complement what the microbes are doing, We will then have it leached slowly by just using gravity into the gravel media here. All of these are the planters, and you'll see them in some of the drawings that are out front, also making the whole place look very beautiful. We actually believe that beauty should be a part of this project. We want it to look beautiful because we want people who own it to mirror themselves in its beauty. We then have the slow equalization tank, and we're sending it up into these various sand filters and upflow roughing filters, and then we put it in this recycled water storage tank. And we also, before sending it out to irrigation and into the toilet, we then UV it as well. It's basically clean, guys. I mean, I wouldn't want to drink it, but I can definitely, in all honesty, use it for my toilet needs, and I can also use it for irrigation. And anyone who's been in Kibera knows that sack gardens, it's basically a garden in a sack, is a huge contributor to avoiding hunger. They would be able to quadruple, make whatever. It's like they could literally make this even more effective just by us donating 14,000 gallons of recycled water daily for irrigation needs. I think we could cover a big part of Kibera. Not to mention, we could green a big part of Kibera. Kibera is like one big mud hole. It looks, and it's a mixture of feces, and it's a mixture of mud and this red earth, and it is not pleasant looking. What we were talking about also with Richard, who knows the area very well, is also the problem with fecal dust. And I don't want to go into the details of what it looks like when you've taken a bath in the evening, but it is not nice. And what we need to do is we need to plant. These plants can take care of a big part of the contamination problem and of the flying dust. With this recycled water, we can do a lot of good. Here comes the integrated part. So we have the town center, we have a cafe. In Kenya, they didn't used to be allowed to drink coffee. The coffee was for white people and they were exporting it. It was a big cash crop. And just lately, as the middle class has been burgeoning in Nairobi, you now have little very chic coffee bars called Java Junction. And they're very, very cool, and the middle class go there, and it sort of has become an emblem of upward mobility, and I want to put one in Kibera because we want to give people a sense of upward mobility. Here are the classrooms and the administration. We want to have park benches, and underneath this tree we're going to put some playground structures so that the kids who are, they're seeing their mothers work and trying to, and their fathers hopefully also, to get skills, to raise their standards of living. Women for Women International, they made a discovery, and they published it in their yearly report some months ago. Basically, they realized that when they put their skills and rights education, and combined it with access to credit, the women's incomes doubled within a year. Doubled. And 87% of their new income, and the total income, went to their kids, went to provide education. And you guys all know that once the kids are in an education program, half of the work is done in terms of not creating a new generation of people without skill sets, without knowledge. So we're putting a microbank right here as well. We're setting up collaborations with microfinance institutions. We want to put an ATM here. Basically, we're looking for people who have really high levels of technology. We want to have real computer terminals, banking terminals as well, so that people actually get like a whole array of financial services there. That's very important to us. And we want to combine that with courses in financial planning for your home. How do you create assets? That asset building, I think, is going to be the new frontier in microfinance. How do you build assets for poor people, for the extremely poor? And then we have, obviously, also a job opportunity thing. There is a career opportunity here because we will be training 20 new recruits every year. to do this because we know we're going to lose them to green technology enterprises around Africa. In the corner in here, we've asked some people if they could donate us computers and printers, and if they do, and if they don't, we're going to have to buy them. But we want to put in the whole computer room in here. We basically want to have a Holiday Inn business center in there, and with a Wi-Fi, just like here, just same standards. Our toilets are going to be the same standards. They're not going to be holes in the ground. They're going to be same standards as what I would want to use for a toilet. I'm going to ask for the same standards of hot water showers as I would put my kids in. It's just basically, the idea is we want to have the same standards as we expect for ourselves. This is what it will look like when you're walking down from Olympic on Kamkunji grounds. These are the planters I mentioned with the wastewater management treatment. As I said, we believe that this aggregate services being combined can have an effect, and if we start from one place, we believe that this effect will spread. I don't think that everyone living in Kibera wants to change their life, and that's okay. I'm not a proselytizer. I don't believe that I should tell people what to do. I'm there to just give them the opportunity. That's all I'm doing. Now, we want this to be self-sustainable, we've said. So it also has to be sustainable economically. So we had Jim Wonderman, who is also not only the CEO of the Business Association Bay Area in San Francisco, but he is also a lecturer at UC Davis at the Business Management School. And we asked him and a team of graduate students to create a business model for our center. And the business model, I can show you at a later point. I have it here. I don't know how much time I've got, so I will. I think I've gone just about half now, so we'll see where we get to.
Connie, you have about 20 minutes left.
Yeah, exactly. I'll see how much time I've got to show you what we've got. But they made a business model that makes it very clear that there is a way, by aggregating these services, for the community to pay for its own services. In other words, they are now having sustainable services in their community. That's huge for us. We do not want us to be the purveyor of this. We want them to own their services. So it's a simple subscriber model where the subscribers basically are owners through a co-op. And with 1,500 people, which is what our capacity is, with 1,500, that co-op is basically able to function democratically. Because with that many people, and especially the people who are as organized as people living in Kibera politically, they're able and very well versed in the functioning of the co-op. So there's no reason for us to suspect that the co-op model won't be successful, because it's basically one of the most successful models in Africa. The subscriber will be paying for these aggregate services, the same that he is already paying for water services today. So he is not being asked, or she is not being asked, to pay more than she's already using right now for questionable services, for water that holds no guarantee of being clean. So for us, we believe that this business model actually has real reason to function. And according to that, we have projected a surplus of all the way up to $7,000 a month for this operation. Remember, we also got Wi-Fi. We've got basically an internet cafe. We've got like services that are really high. They have the potential of actually earning a lot of money for the center as well. So the community is paying for its own services, and it's a different thing. If I'm going someplace and it's doesn't feel like it's coming from the community, I might be suspicious of it. I might not feel like it belongs to me. Are they trying to use me? Are they trying to, obtain a profit from me? No, they won't have that problem because it's a co-op and they own it. We will therefore donate it. There is no way for slum populations to come up with this money. We have, right now, our price tag is $500,000 for this center to build it. We're hoping that we'll discover, as we are using the very service, that by pricing it according to Kibera, that we will be able to lower that price tag. But we're hoping to get it down to $400,000, but they cannot raise 1,500 people in Kibera the money to pay for this initial investment. And the center will not be able to afford the amortization of that debt through its income. So we do not consider it a possibility to set up loans for them. And we don't even think that it's possible for slum populations who are so mixed to create the homogeneity of purpose to say, let's get together and get this money raised and all sign on that we'll pay it back. We just don't think it's going to happen. So what we think is it's just better that we are saying as a community or as corporations or whoever, you know what, this is a really cool thing to donate to a community. And this is green technology. Right now, there are parts of Africa that are growing at a clip of around 5%, 5.5%. That's a lot. Okay, their economies are growing. If they continue to grow as they should and that we want them to, they're also going to want the same services as we have right now. And if they get the same services with the same technology that we have right now, this planet, I am not sure it can take it. So we believe that clean technology here is also essential. People in Africa are very sensitive to this because they're living with the effects of climate change. They're living with the effects of drought, and they've seen what happens to the planet. So they do want clean technology, not only because they want to save the planet too, but because it's more reliable and it's cost effective there as well. The training of the community members is big point for us, and that'll be continuing. And we have an ongoing oversight committee set up as well, and a lot of rules for that I don't think I have the time to go into right now, but just know that we've thought about it. These guys, I've sat down with these guys and I have explained to them our whole concept, our whole pilot project, but also what we hope to have as a future to bring in terms of a completely different approach to the infrastructure problem in the developing world, especially in Africa. They are the key to it. I've told them that it rests on their shoulders, that that everything that they do in terms of learning how to use these subscriber programs, how to organize and how to treat each other with equality, and how to come at it with an understanding of what transparency is, and all of the various things that are part of building successful enterprises, that they must learn and uphold those concepts. And they have said that they will. Security is a big issue in a place where people have nothing. So the very first thing is to involve the community. As such, we have already had one baraza. We're having another baraza again next month, where we're making sure that all of the various community groups and stakeholders are represented. We're asking them to each elect a representative and to join in our stakeholder group coordinating committee. That's very important right there. Having the elders council be a part of this, the chief, all of the bottom officials be invested in this is incredibly important, especially in places that are as volatile as Kibera. Kibera is basically where all of the political violence played out in 2007, 2008. 1,200 people died. Right now they're on trial, some of the people that are suspected of having orchestrated this violence in The Hague. We'll see what is being found there. We also have really the houses that David Warner builds. They are built to last. They are extraordinarily solid. And so for us, part of this is also not only integrating them into the containers, most of the technology, but even such as, for example, the solar panels, that it's really welded on very, very tight, and that everybody who's doing it is doing it knowing that in desperately poor areas there are going to be some desperate measures. But we're also building up against a wall which does give us some kind of ability to control the area. We're also on a big square, and we're going to have the only night light in Kibera as well, because we are basically creating an enormous amount of energy from our solar panel system. We also are offering to the people living there their own solutions at prices they can afford. So it's not like it's going to be a question of us versus them. For us, subscribers are just part of the thing. We also have day pass possibilities. You can buy a day pass to go in there. But you also can be walking into the green market upgrade. It was very funny. One of our guys, when I visited his home the first time a year ago, it was a typical Kibera home with absolutely no amenities. And after having worked for Human Needs Project, I can now tell you that there is a very big refrigerator in that home. It's literally the first thing they do when they get the money, is to invest it in the quality of life and the standard of life for themselves and for their children. Our process is very important here because we basically come from starting with research. We then went into design, we created the Kibera prototype. We want to measure impact all along, from the get-go. We want to know every part of our system, what will work, what will not, and we want to find out why, so then that we can then adapt immediately, refine our choices, and then we want to replicate this prototype anyway. Now, can you help? We would like to hear from you. I'm going to leave my email address. Please email me. Tell me what you think. I won't take offense, I promise. You guys may like or not like what we've come up with, but I'd love to hear what it is that you've seen from what I've presented. And we also are setting up collaborative corporate partnerships, but also we're setting up partnerships with universities, with academic institutions all over the world, not just in America, but also, more importantly, in the community where we will be functioning. We are looking for subscriber management software. We are in the process of developing it, honestly. Lynn's husband is developing it as well, but we could really use some more help. Impact measurement software is very important to us. We want to basically collect data every time people pay. But this subscriber management service, I should say, we're creating right now a website that's only for the subscribers. We want to give them first world standards. When I say it, I mean it. We want them to be able to access their accounts online. We want them to be able to pay with a text, or which is what they do all over Africa. Or we want them to be able to do M-Pesa Pal, which is paying online. And so we want them to have access. We want them to be able to reserve their shower time online. So that's how good we want it to be. Strategic management software is for the future. We would like to be able to see how, once we are able to replicate our idea, how we're going to be following all of the various strategic components of our plan, and then also ensure that it's being carried out. Computer, Wi-Fi, printer hardware, water bottling systems. We want to find a way to solve the problem of recontamination of water. A lot of people that I talked with last night felt that it should be done through education. I really feel that the main part of our concern is to create productivity, create growth. We believe that by giving job skills, by giving people access to jobs, we want to set up in connection with our adult learning center. We're setting up meetings with big business people all over East Africa. And we're having a dinner with them when we come back. And I'm going to ask these 10 people we've invited, I'm going to ask them to tell me what are the minimum standards that they need from a trainee, from an intern. And then I'm going to make sure that our interns have that, and then I'm going to ask them each to take 20. Take 20 of my interns. Take 20 of my adult learning center graduates. Once I've given them these basic skills that they should have, now you take 200. Now we talk. We talk every month. We talk what's working, what's not. We're refining it. Like I said, we want to be able to adapt constantly to what we find. Now next year, I want them to take 30, 40, 50, because they represent groups of industries. Because it's not enough to create access to job skills if then they are still being stigmatized by being from Kibera. You have no idea. I'm paying full scholarship for 17 kids from Kibera to some of the best boarding schools in Kenya. I'm making a little sort of bet that these kids, if they get the ability to be raised with the upper class and the upper class's ease of privilege, that they kind of can see how these people think and how they're raised, and that with that knowledge based on their own experience as well, and the level of education that I plan to make sure that they have, that then they can make changes in the future. But you have no idea how hard it was for me to give my money to those schools. They did not want my kids. Nobody wanted them. It was really, it's been a process. But now they are in there and they're working hard. And I'm going to do the same. I want to create access for our adult learning center graduates. We think that a slum is a prison. You can get in, but you really can't get out. And as more and more Africans are dispossessed from their lands, as these land changes are happening, it's going to be, it already is a precipitous growth in urbanization, and what's happening is just nothing short of tragic in these slums. So this is our approach to dealing with some of those problems. No questions? Where's Kevin?
Connie, just speaking of the high value of property in slums, actually, how will you secure the property that's needed to build the center?
Okay, that's basically part of our biggest problems. We were ready to build this thing more than 9 months ago. It has been, that's where basically a lot of our energy has been focused on, just securing permits. It's really hard. There's a reason for why no one has invested there, right? I mean, there's a reason for why these people are simply not getting, smart business people to come in there and create services. Why? Because these land rights have a historical problem. Kibera, it's a very, very complex problem. And it is also, to some degree, tribal, right? And so, I think Kenya is making huge progress in terms of talking about basic human rights for everyone. Their constitution is a document almost on the level of the American Constitution, whereby when that Constitution was put up, there really was not an ability to live by it quite. It's taking America hundreds of years to actually really truly give equal rights to everyone in real terms, not just legally, but in real terms. That they're doing the same in Kenya. It's now on the books that they should have those rights. And so it's going to be a long and slow climb. What we're doing is we're basically doing all angles. We are pounding the city council doors. We started out with a baraza with the chief, the elders council, the councilmen, and big like 10 women's groups from Gatwakera. So we started the right way. We started with that. We also made a survey at the same time. So we went into the community at the same time. My good friend, the Danish ambassador in Kenya, has been an indefatigable friend in trying to help us with the government side, and our lawyer, Joyce Oniko, is also herself an NGO, also has her own NGO, and so therefore has a lot of understanding of how these permits are being given. I should say, we were given a permit to build on Kamkunji ground on the 25th of May, but we're then told in July, unofficially, that we shouldn't really expect to get any permits after all, to actually exploit, for example, the groundwater. That in the end, maybe they didn't want us to be there because we might be interfering with other activities there. It's been a very hard place to get. So we have been looking for alternative places, and we want to be in Kamkunji grounds because this is a civic sort of values project. And we want to invest in that. We call it the town center because there is no actual town center that functions in the same way as our town centers function. And that's what they need. That's what they need in order to create real productivity and growth there. So we're working on that, and we're doing yet another baraza and setting up the committee, the stakeholder group committee, and we believe that just by setting up the stakeholder committee and getting them to interact with the district officer and also the district commissioner, that will help just rustle up the last of the permit problems that we have. Yeah.
Along the same lines of security, and I'm sorry if you mentioned this and I missed it, but as I'm sure you know, rape is a big problem in Kibera. And
one of my girls was raped last year.
Yeah, it's a huge problem, and I know that you know that. And so I'm wondering if you've talked to the community or what the women's take is on having a public bathroom available.
Yeah, we have.
And the security
It was part of our survey, actually. We came down with an initial design done by Ken Cal, and then we showed them the design. And we showed the women's groups, we had all the 10 women's groups there. We showed them, what do you feel about these stalls? We've actually visited the UN's bath facilities, and ours afford the absolute same measure of privacy, and with the added privacy part of actually separating the genders completely, and we also have a higher number of shower heads and toilets per facility. So we think that we literally have spent a lot of time, because as you know very well, a lot of these places are also very socially conservative, and so we want to make sure that people feel that there's absolutely no way that could be peaking. So we are literally just making sure that people feel safe in those areas. We do have 24/7. We plan to have it running 24/7 and to have a lot of light to light up the area, because a lot of people in Kenya in Kibera will be going to work at 3 o'clock in the morning. They will be getting up to go to work. They will have gone to bed at 7 and they'll be up and going to work at 3. They very much use the solar, that's their routine. So having light there is anybody who's working in urban problems will tell you that that's the biggest thing almost in terms of creating safety, is just having it lit up as well. One of our co-founders of the Human Use Project Kenya is also a sort of pillar of the community. He, during the violence, his name is William Ugutu, also known as Bangkok, and anybody who's been in Kibera actually knows Bangkok. He's actually famous here as well. There was an article in last month's Utne, or Utne, whatever it's called, and about him taking the journalists around Kibera and showing her the slum. He is the CEO of his own security company, and he and his men, they have no weapons. It's not like a vigilante guy at all. This is really a guy who, they carry out the dead. They provide a lot of just basic services to Gatfakera village, and just a minor sense of, here's someone you can ask if you're having a problem. He has cuts on his face from the violence where he was trying to save people. And so he is also kind of considered a heroic figure, and he is a founder also of this center as well. I mean, we'll be training alongside our trainees as well and learning all of these things, because he also just wants to learn a lot as well. I believe that between security and between light, between the coordinating committee and the fact that all of these stakeholder groups are going to be owning their own center. That is our security as well.
Thank you, Connie.